It's full time.
Hello and welcome to Full Time, brought to you by AIA Vitality. I'm Shane Crawford, and the person we're about to be joined by, all the way in Queensland in the beautiful hub. He's been up there for a long time now. He's having a time of his life. Ayrton Woolley, come on in. How are you?
Going very well, thank you, Crawf. How are you?
Yeah, we're going very well down here. Very quiet at the moment. Not many people on the roads. A lot of people at parks during the day, but that's about it. And everyone, only an hour a day are you allowed out and about, but it's good to see everyone heading down to the parks and having a bit of a walk and doing a bit of exercise.
Well, I hope you're making the most of it, Crawf. Certainly am up here anyway.
Oh, yes, you'd be doing it very, very tough. Hey, we're going to rip into the round so far. How good is footy? The footy feast, 20 days straight. And it all started with Port Adelaide. We're going back to round 10. Port Adelaide, you've got Richmond over Brisbane, Geelong, and then you've got Melbourne against Adelaide, Collingwood against Sydney, St Kilda over against Gold Coast. And then we hook over to round 11, Port Adelaide. What an awesome match that was. Both sides really brought their A game. 21 points to the Power. And the Brisbane Lions continue on their winning way, played well with a 20-point victory. And today, the West Coast Eagles, they had to lift, they had to find another gear. They did after half-time, and they were 22-point victors over the Blues, who, Ayrton, the Blues were very brave, and as they've done all year, they've tried hard, just a bit undermanned.
Yeah, well, let's take a closer look at that game, Crawf. There has been some great footy this weekend. Really enjoyed all of those three matches that you just mentioned, but it was West Coast today who won by 22 points. The Blues actually leading that game by 3 goals at one stage, and their pressure was really good at that stage. It just dropped off a little in the second half, didn't it, Crawf?
Yeah, the West Coast Eagles, they give you a bit of a chance. It's happened a few times where they work their way into the match, but after half-time you saw Kennedy kick a few goals. Nat Nui, what he's doing around the ball, he doesn't get heaps of the ball, but I tell you what, he is giving absolute perfect service to the on-ballers, you know, whether it be Shuey, whether it be Gaff, Yo, they must be licking their lips. And his impact on a game and what he can do from a centre bounce and from a boundary throw-in is just incredible. And that is going to be the reason the West Coast Eagles can win the flag. As long as Nat Nui's playing all year, it's just quite incredible to watch. And I'd love to be an on-baller playing underneath Nick Naitanui.
I'm sure you would. Plenty of talking points from that game too. Jack Martin with a calf injury. You'd think he misses a few weeks of football. Luke Shuey involved in an incident too with Ed Curnow, a tripping incident. You'd think he might face a little bit of scrutiny, Crawf.
Well, hopefully he'll just cop a fine, because we need all those superstar players playing, and he's missed a bit of footy this year, so hopefully he can just cop a little bit of a fine. But from a Blues point of view, the Blues were good. They play with really good spirits. They bring some new kids in. And, you know, they're having a go. Obviously, they're still a few years off showing their very, very best, but they're on the right track. I know people are getting a bit frustrated because they're having fade-outs and they're getting a lot of goals kicked in duration. But the thing is, they're going well. I reckon they've just got to hang in there, fight through this year, and I reckon once they get a few of their key pillars up forward back next year who've missed a lot of the footy this year, I reckon they're going to be all right.
You talk about those fade-outs, Crawf. I just got a few stats for you here. 8 straight games they've conceded 4 goals in a row, and under David Teague, 14 of their past 21 games they've conceded a 5-goal swing. Now, does that come down to on-field leadership, or does that come down to coaching? Is it a combination of both? How do they arrest those issues?
No, I can assure you, especially in the team meetings, they'd be talking through this quite a lot. They would have plans, and obviously the plans aren't working at the moment. So it's a work in progress, and you've got to understand, like Carlton have brought in, you know, they've brought in some new players today. They've got some young players who haven't played a lot of footy. So you really, like, if you're going to win a game, especially the 18 on the field, you need them all doing their little bit, knowing where to go, knowing how to slow the game down, reading where things are at. And I have no doubt they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Eventually it'll turn. At the moment, it seems to be turning the other way.
Well, the other game today is currently underway. It's 3/4 time, Melbourne up against North Melbourne, and it's the Demons holding a slender lead there, and a big match for them. It's really sort of last chance saloon type stuff if they want to keep touch with the 8, Crawford. The D's are going okay.
Yeah, they've been going all right, although North Melbourne are putting up a pretty good fight. But interesting match because no Gawn, no Viney. So they've had to really rely on others to step up, and it's good to see young Jackson, a rising star last week. But he really shows a lot, especially someone in their first year. So I think they've got a really good player there. Petrarca's still in good form, and, you know, it's just good to see Demons trying to patch another win up after a very good last quarter against Adelaide last week. But they've still got to make sure that they get across the line. So North Melbourne, they're working hard. They keep themselves in it. So if they can score a nice one early, you never know, it might be game on. But I'd expect Melbourne to finish strong and chalk up another win and keep their finals hopes alive.
Wouldn't be an episode of Full Time without you mentioning Christian Petrarca, but one person I did want to mention was Sam Wiedemann. Young player, young forward who took a while to develop, but he really shone in that final series that Melbourne made their preliminary final push. He's sort of been in the wilderness since then. 2 goals, 3 in this game, and a real presence. He's someone they really need to get into form, and it looks like he's finally finding a bit of touch. Yeah, and their ball movements are a lot better, you know, coming through the middle and inside 50, whereas in the first 5 or 6 games it wasn't great. So any forward playing in a team like that, when the ball delivery is not coming in so well, makes it very, very difficult. But yeah, really important player. You need your pillars just to give you a real chance, and it's good to see him finding a bit of form. 2 goals, 3. I really worry with key forwards. We saw it with Charlie Dixon on the weekend, just missing real easy shots. I hate it. That is your job as a forward. Yes, you got to put some pressure on, try and have some shots at goal, but when you get a chance, and especially from 20, 25, 30 metres out, you should not miss. That is your job. So we need the key forwards once they get a chance, because they don't get many chances these days. You've got to make the most of them. So get your kicking boot on. Some of the goals Charlie Dixon missed on the weekend, goodness gracious me. But the Demons are looking good, and I'm sure all the fans will be happy chalking up another win. Well, Crawford, definitely the match of the round so far, but potentially the match of the season on Saturday night. Last night, that was, of course, Richmond up against Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide came out on top in the end, but a cracking contest between those two sides. Yeah, I loved it. It was awesome. Couldn't take my eyes off the TV screens. Port Adelaide couldn't have played any better in that first half, and Richmond, to their credit, just kept hanging around like a bad smell. It's good to see Jack Riewoldt back in some real form. You can see he's working really hard now. He's being rewarded with some goals, but loving what Port Adelaide are doing. I think they've got great balance right across. They've got a lot of youth, but they've got some great experience led by Travis Boak. And, yeah, this could be the year, their 150th year with Port Adelaide. Could it be a premiership coming their way? And when I look at all the teams right through the top 8 and especially the top 4 that are in contention. You look at the Brisbane Lions, they're just scratching their way forward. The West Coast Eagles are playing in patches. And then you've got the Port Adelaide Power at the moment. They're probably the ones that are closest to their peak. And then you've got the Tigers, who they're undermanned. They're playing reasonably well, but they've got so much more improvement as well. So it's pretty exciting heading towards the business end of the season. Certainly is, Crawford. I know Port Adelaide won that game, but I don't think Richmond would have lost any admirers. I reckon they've discovered some midfielders. I know Shea Bolton has stepped up. They didn't have Trent Cotchin. They didn't have Shane Edwards. No Bashir Hooley. I wouldn't think... You've still got to beat Richmond come finals time, don't you? Yeah, and especially with Shane Edwards. I thought he was their most important player because of the run and carry, and when he gets the ball, he goes direct and... yeah, so he's been a huge one out, and obviously Hooley can really sit them up from down back. So this is picturing up perfectly for them, a bit like last year where they really relied on bringing some young or introducing some younger players into the team. They stepped up, they kept chalking up the wins. That's the crucial thing at the moment. You just got to keep chalking up the wins. It doesn't have to be pretty. And then you bring in those class players, as you just mentioned, and look out, you know. People who want to write off the Tigers, beware, because they're building nicely. As long as they can still keep getting the 4 points, get themselves in that top 8, they put their best team in, look out. You know, the Tigers are still going to be sniffing a premiership. Well, it was certainly a finals-like atmosphere last night. This was the reaction from the two coaches.
I thought it was a pretty good thing for AFL football. That's what I thought it was, as much as anything. 2 really aggressive teams going at it pretty hard with a 1-point margin at three-quarter time, with lots of things that you love in the game: tough, hard, attacking, scoring. playing with every second you got, and I thought it was a great advertisement for the game of AFL football in a really tough year.
Is it also for you? Well, I can only go on what I've seen, and look, I love the way they play. They attack the game, and I think they're. I sit there and look at one of the sides that I pay money to watch. I'd be one of those sides.
Just a bit of match review news as well. Oh, sorry to cut you off there, Crawford. Jack Rewalt involved in an incident with Tom Jonas just come through. He's been fined for striking. That was the low blow, so he's got away with one there, Jack.
Lots of low blows at Richmond over the last few weeks. Anyway, I'm sure they'll pull their heads in and get back on track. Hey, it's time for the roast. Bring it on. Now, I was very concerned to hear this on radio, which is why I'm going to hook in this week.
The most disappointing thing is I've got a lot of Essendon supporters and a lot of AFL supporters commenting on photos of Romeo, my baby, and saying that I'm a flog. I won't listen to all of it, but I know there are people out there who probably would, and I think it's just got to stop. If you're getting death threats like I've been getting, there's some players couldn't handle that.
Yes, well, Callum Ward, yes, he milked the free kick. We've all milked free kicks over our time. You play it up and it's up to the umpire to work out whether or not it's a free kick. And yes, it can be challenging for the umpires to work out whether or not it's a free kick. These days they've got 3 on the field, so surely you can come together and work it out. But Callum Ward, if he had his time over again, I'm sure he would have played it out a bit differently. I'm not roasting Callum Ward because he's been an absolute warrior. He is hard as a cat's head. He really is. I'm roasting people on social media who feel like they need to voice their opinions and then get the arrow and aim it straight at family members and people associated who can't really defend themselves. It's not good enough. We don't need death threats. Yes, the great thing about social media is everyone gets a voice and you get to have that opinion, but pull your heads in. We don't need to. At the moment, everyone needs to come together right across the country because we're going through a pandemic which is just dividing everyone. We don't need death threats. Callum Ward, you're a superstar. Go hard at the footy like you normally do. Yes, you had one where you probably milked it a bit, and from a social media point of view, lift. We're much better than that. Get behind someone, support them, and definitely don't, kick them while they're down. So all the best, Callum Ward. We want you to get out there and play well. We love you, and I'm sure next time he'll put his head over the footy and he'll run straight through the pack like he's done for his whole career.
Yeah, well said, Crawford. Worth noting too, Essendon investigating that incident and whether it was in fact a member who had sent that death threat to Callum Ward, and if that was the case, then the club could certainly take some strong action in that regard. Looking ahead to some football rather than those off-field matters. Geelong, 2 matches this week, St Kilda and then Port Adelaide on Saturday. Collingwood, of course, are back in action. They've got Adelaide on Tuesday night. Interested to see from Collingwood, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Crawf, because I don't think the Pies are going that well. But Nathan Buckley, we might have a listen to Nathan Buckley first, then get your reaction.
Yeah, if we just take last week as an example, we felt like we played a whole lot better than we had the 2 weeks prior, and I'm not sure whether you could say that our personnel or our talent was any better, but we just played better as a team. And I think if we do that, we'll give ourselves a chance against anyone, anytime, because we think that we've got a really solid team unit, and that when we play our style and we come together as a team unit, regardless of talent, that we're pretty hard to beat. So, we want to see more of that. Clearly, we can be cleaner. We can execute better with ball in hand. But there was a lot to like about the way that we set the ground up and controlled the game against Sydney. And regardless of personnel, we think that we'll give ourselves a chance at any stage.
That certainly caught my eye today, Crawford, from Nathan Buckley. Of course, the Pies only beat the Swans by 9 points last week. They were very inaccurate. Just got some stats to throw at you. They haven't scored over 60 points in a game in their past 6 matches. I'm not sure they're going that well. Now, we know what Collingwood can do at their best, but feel like their ball movement at the moment, they've just gone back to that. We know they're a defensive side, but they've gone back to that really ultra-defensive type play. Do they need to break the shackles a bit? What's going on with Collingwood at the moment, do you think?
Well, they need to kick straighter on the weekend. They dominated against the Swans in the first quarter and just couldn't put the scoreboard pressure on. They seem to start really well. I'm a fan of Collingwood. They're winning and we're still having a bit of a go at them. But when you look through their year, you know, Eddie Maguire's been in the news every second week. You've had Howe go out of the side. You've had the side bottom incident. You've had Pendlebury injured, Treloar injured. I've already mentioned Howe. De Goey's been injured. So they've had to really rely on their depth. They've had lots of challenges thrown at them, yet they're still, you know, sniffing around the 8. I think if they can get their best side together, get a bit of momentum, start to connect going forward a bit, because at the moment what's happening, a lot of sides are really trying to defend the middle pretty strong. So you do tend to want to go wide and overuse the footy. I reckon if you can start putting the blinkers on and run straight, they're definitely going to be a side to watch out for. I had them right up there. I thought they could win the premiership, although injuries at the moment, I'm starting to think otherwise, but I wouldn't discount them. I think Nathan Buckley's a very good coach. I think, as I said, they've got a very good a list and lots of depth, but it's going to be very tested. And they do play Adelaide, so you'd think they'd chalk up another win. And as you do, you keep yourself alive, bring your best players in as the season goes on, and hopefully you can have a crack at the big one.
That's right, Croft. They'll certainly be hoping they'll beat Adelaide, that's for sure. Let's get to your 4 points now. Another big week of footy. What have you got for us?
Well, all right, the 4 points. Crowd pleasers, yes please. How good Western Australia, South Australia, the home ground advantage is getting the teams across the lines, especially as the game goes on. They lift a bit, and it's a real advantage now. Even Queensland, you know, with the Brisbane Lions, it's a real advantage. Silver service, Dan Butler. Richmond, what's going on? Oh my goodness, he's kicking goals. Where has this player come from? He is a premiership player, so he can obviously play. And St Kilda must be absolutely licking their lips. 1964, that was the last time a team went through the season and didn't win a game. That was the Fitzroy Football Club. And unfortunately, I don't really want to say it because I'm barracking for them every week to try and chalk up a win, but I think the Adelaide Football Club are not going to win a game for season 2020. I want them to. But the positive out of all of it, they're playing lots of young kids. O'Brien in a ruck, there's some pillars there that I can see the future. But at the moment, the future isn't winning a game. So unfortunately, Adelaide, no win for season 2020. And we have a go at the so-called Wags, and I think it's unfair. I don't even like calling him Wags. But over the last week, you know, all the talk through the media is the Wags are having silly requests and so forth. I don't think that's the case. Look, I think if you're sleeping on a mattress that you don't like, you have every reason to ask for a different mattress. If you want a different pillow, you have every reason to ask. I've been to hotels where they've got pillow menus with 150 different pillows. I'm just happy to get a pillow. Pets, they're asking about pets. I think they should be able to have their pets with them. It's so
Shane,
important.
Shane.
No, you should be able to have your pets with you, especially now that they're stuck in their hubs for months and months and months, and the pets would want to be with their owners as well. I'm happy to do a Dumb and Dumber style, chuck all the pets in the back of a van, the big dog van, and I'll drive them all the way up to Queensland and even to Western Australia. That's how much I think that's the case. So what is actually happening there? I know you're living in the hubs and pretty much got the lowdown on what's going on. Have the requests been over the top and outrageous?
Well, you touched on a few there, Shane. I mean, a pillow or something like that, you can perhaps understand that might be a reasonable request to fill. But if it's stuff like getting a wall knocked down at your resort, or if it's stuff to do with excessive grocery bills, or if it's...
Is that legit, though? Is this just something that we're making up in the media? That, oh, someone wants to build a wall or knock a wall down in their room. Surely that's not the case.
Look, I can tell you that is legitimate.
No, it cannot be true. That's not right. So you're telling me that someone wanted to knock down a wall or build a wall in some of the living arrangements that they have?
Well, some of these clubs are staying at resorts which are obviously made for large groups of people to be staying at. Other clubs are staying at places which are not so much custom built for their requirements, for families and that sort of thing. So some of them are student accommodation, for instance, where Richmond is staying. So it doesn't have exactly what they're after. So, I mean, yeah, I get why it's come, but I feel like it's a bit of an unreasonable request. And I know there's certainly from some people in clubland, they understand there's a bit of a sense of entitlement from some of the players and their partners, and maybe they just need to rein that in a little bit.
And what else? What else have been some of the requests?
I know there was a request around appliances initially, and the AFL fielded one for everyone to have, I think it was a microwave in their room, but then the request came in for a toaster in every room as well, and that's when they started to say, well, we can't just have a kitchen in every single room, and we have hundreds of toasters and hundreds of microwaves in every room and across Queensland. Might start to add up a little bit financially.
You should be able to have a toaster, or you should at least be able to give someone $100 to go and buy yourself a bit of a toaster. Everyone loves, especially late at night, a bit of toast, a bit of jam on toast. Hey, so surely they should be able to at least have a toaster, even if they have to pay for it themselves.
Well, maybe if you pay for it yourselves, but I know, Shane, that you've got very deep pockets, so maybe if you were up here, you'd be one of those ones requesting, calling Gillan McLachlan yourself, would you, to request a toaster?
Back in my day, I would have, yeah, absolute. No, I'm happy to sleep in a tent. I would have been. Yes, I'm happy to sleep in a tent now. Anything to get away from my kids. Hey, I shouldn't say that. Now, the other thing is, I think they get a hard rap. I think when the media jump all over the players, they jump over the partners pretty hard, and you know, they've taken themselves out of an environment and put themselves into an area where they're very lucky at the moment because, yes, they get to get out into the sunshine and get to move around a little bit, but within the hub. But they're not even allowed to go to the games. And that's one thing that really shocked me is, yes, they're up there, they're you know, trying to hold the fort together and yes, yeah, they're asking for the odd toaster here or whatever else, but they're not even allowed to go along to the games and support their partner. They're not even allowed to take the kids along, yet the general public can pop along and, you know, get behind their teams and cheer loudly.
Yeah, well, I guess that's all part of being in that bubble, isn't it, Crawford? They've got to have those COVID protocols in place because they've got the Queensland government to allow them to play up here, and that's one of the sacrifices they've had to make. But I think I'm being told we're running out of time here, Crawford, so you can go and have a think about that toaster tonight. You might actually be in the doghouse.
Hey, before you go, I'm going to ask you about your cat. Did you work out what type of cat you got? Not one with stripes?
I knew you were going to bring this up. He's a tabby, Crawford. Right. Apparently that's one of the most common cats in the world, a tabby too, so I should have known it, I'm told. But there you go. So I did a bit of research after last week. And
what do you call the bald cats? You know, the cats with no hair. Any idea?
What, a Siamese or something?
Oh, yeah, that'll do. All right.
I think that's all we've got time for. Thanks again to AIA Vitality. Let's get off before you keep going with some of this crap, Crawford.
Hey, that's not very nice. Hey, have a nice time in Queensland. I hope the waves are perfect and the beaches is awesome. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, mate. Catch you later.